Welcome back to the Finding Strength podcast. It's been a minute.
Yeah, we haven't recorded for like a month.
Yeah.
Somebody had to freaking go out of commission for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. 4 weeks.
6 weeks, less a month.
That's okay. We're back now, though. Right?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do this. What are we going to talk about today?
Psychotherapy.
Yeah, you are psycho.
That's what
It's very
called.
fitting.
You know, that's what it's called, psychotherapy.
What you do is called psychotherapy.
My official title is psychotherapist.
It works.
Psycho.
Yeah. Emphasis on the psycho.
But it's psychology. The thing that you're doing in psychotherapy is you're working on the psyche or the mind. Same thing.
That's cool.
The mind.
What is therapy? What is psychotherapy then?
Okay. So
Is there a difference?
therapy and psychotherapy?
Yeah. Or are they hand in hand?
Okay, we're getting into etymology. Hooray. Okay. Real quick. We're going to set something freaking straight for just a second, okay? We just released a podcast with Mason, and his little description thing, he's like, my therapist likes to use big words. I don't like to use big words. Okay? Okay? It's called a dictionary, bitch. Jeez. Shame me for freaking using words that are normal.
You just like to make other people feel stupid.
That's not true.
I'm kidding. You don't. You just like to sound really smart.
It's not that I like to sound really smart. It's that language is used as a descriptor for an experience.
Okay,
right?
Jordan Peterson.
No, go listen to Jordan Peterson. You've heard Jordan Peterson, Ryan. Dude, JP, man. My boy JP, he uses some words.
He really does. I feel like I have to search what he says and then dumb it down for me.
He's tough. He's tough. Because he's brilliant.
He is brilliant.
He's brilliant.
But back to therapy.
Etymology, okay? All etymology means is this is the origin of the word. We're just talking about the origin, this word thing. What is it really about? What's the history of this word?
Yeah.
What's the etymology of the word? What word are we doing?
Psycho. Yeah.
Psychotherapy. Therapy. Yeah. We started therapy.
Okay.
Back. Sorry.
Therapy.
Okay. We're getting back in the swing of things. Sorry, folks. Therapy. Etymology of therapy. So therapy can be anything therapeutic, right? You can go get to a massage therapist.
Okay. That makes
and they're
sense.
doing therapy, which is like the practice of healing, right?
Yeah.
So you have this thing called psychotherapy, and you're healing the psyche or the mind. And what's interesting about this word psyche is I don't know if it's it might be Greek, I'm not sure, but it's definitely not just our word. That's the cool thing when you get into language, you understand that our language is this modernized version of old languages, and we've borrowed a bunch of words, and some are Latin and some are Greek and all blah 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 blah. But the word psyche is similar to and used for the word spirit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, actually.
So this is one of the things that the old school psychologist guys liked to debate, was this idea of a spirit. And does that thing really exist? Because you can't really, when you get into science, right, you start to measure stuff. And if you can't measure it and you can't prove it, it doesn't exist according to a lot of science. That's modern science, right?
Okay.
But just because something can't be measured by us might not mean that it doesn't exist.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you kind of follow what I'm saying there?
Well, yeah. What I think about is this is where people made up religion.
Sure.
And stuff the spirit. Yeah.
Sure. But is the idea of the spirit made up, or does it actually exist?
I think it exists.
I think it does too. And this is the idea that becomes fundamental. Fundamental. This is a very foundational, important idea that shows up when you start to learn about psychotherapy and the human experience. What does it mean to be human? And so one of the things that I like to explain is that the human being has 4 elements to it, which are the body.
Yeah.
Next would be the
mind.
Next would be the
Heart.
or the soul or the spirit or whatever, right? That is a fundamental part of the human, right? And then the fourth thing would be the chemicals, the emotions. And so there's this human being that has these four things: mind, body, soul, self, spirit, and chemicals. And we're going throughout this experience, and the chemicals are being, ruffled up, being triggered by the mind. And then the spirit thing has to kind of try and take control and it's just an interesting dynamic.
It is interesting. Well, because I heard on a podcast somewhere, I can't remember who, but I remember it was Dwight Schrute. I don't know his real name, but he talked about on there how he said that, like, he believes that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And that sat with me really funny because I was like, like I've never really thought about it that way. But then, like, doing therapy and breath work and going through my own stuff and trying to understand my mind more has helped me realize that I really do think that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, because when I feel right with my spirit, everything feels like good. But then, like, when my mind throws me off, I'm like, whoa, that's a human thing. I got to figure out what's going on with this human thing and see if I can line it back up with my spirit. And so that's pretty interesting. I did not know that psycho meant spirit.
One of the many.
One of the many. Yeah.
Right? But
that's
reassign
really cool
psyche.
Concept.
Yeah, we assign the idea of the psyche to the mind. And really what's also super interesting is, of all the sciences, right? You got biology, you got freaking chemistry, you got physics, you got freaking ecology, sociology, you got all these things,
Oceanology.
Right? Sure. Yeah. All the ologies. Which ology just means study of, right?
Yeah.
The youngest is psychology.
Yeah, that is so interesting.
Yeah.
Because, like,
this is new. We've only been studying the mind in this way since the early 1900s. Because this guy, Freud, he's kind of the first one to come up and be like, hey, check this out, guys. I got this wild idea. There's actually this thing called a mind. And this thing called a mind, it's not you.
Yeah.
It acts independently of you. And in comes this concept of conscious and the unconscious. What is the unconscious? The idea of the unconscious, as far as we know, didn't really come about until Freud in the early 1900s.
And he's the one who came up with this concept, right? The unconscious and the conscious. That was the first time that it was really something that was brought up.
And Freud called the origins of psychotherapy are Freudian. And he would do this thing called psychodynamic therapy. And the psychodynamic theory basically is that you're making the unconscious conscious.
Yeah.
Because there is so much unconscious stuff going on in the background of your mind. And really what we estimate now is that somewhere in the neighborhood of 95% of your bodily functioning and activity and everything that's going on is unconscious. The only thing that's happening, that's consciously happening to you, really not even happening to you, that you're making happen, is about 5% of your stuff. And that's like, 95% would be your heart beating and your breathing and all this autonomic stuff, automatic stuff that's happening underneath the surface that you're completely unaware of. But if you think about it, your life experience is completely governed by that automatic, autonomic, subconscious thing, right? Your physiological reactions, the feelings, the chemistry that's existing in your body is happening unconsciously in reaction to your environment.
And that starts at like a very young age, right? That starts from the very beginning.
Do babies even have a conscious part to them, a consciousness, or is it all just automatic? I mean, these are the things that psychology talks about. We don't know.
Yeah,
you can't ask a baby.
Ask a bababy.
Who are you? The baby's gonna go, Mama. You're your mom? No. Booby milk. That's all they want. They just want to eat. Because think about it. The
survival.
The unconscious need of humanness, of the human being is very at the most primitive, the most fundamental thing. And this guy named Abraham Maslow. There's Abram Maslow came up with this idea called the hierarchy of human needs. And we did a podcast on needs a while ago. But the most fundamental of the human needs, at the very, 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 very bottom, is the need for what? Guess. The most
very
important
bottom?
thing. The foundational need for existence. What do you have to have in order to exist?
Food?
Food.
I
Yes.
like food.
That is a
I'm like,
human need.
yeah.
Food.
Food and water is what I was thinking.
Food, water, and shelter.
Shelter. I was thinking love, but okay, we'll take shelter.
So what Maslow does is he comes in and says, okay, Freud, yeah, we got this conscious and unconscious thing, sure. But what is motivating the unconscious? What is motivating all this stuff that's going on? And he says it's needs. Needs that must be met. And what are those needs? What's the motivation behind the behavior, what the unconscious is doing? And it's seeking food, shelter, safety,
survival.
Yeah. Freud, conversely, says that the unconscious motivation for human beings is purely selfish. Yeah. Ego.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Purely selfish. It's my own immediate survival and my own sexual needs. Those motivate my unconscious behavior. And I have to unearth that and look at it and become friends with it. Not friends with it. That's more of a Jungian thing, but just
understand
it and really understand that, oh, this thing that I'm doing, I'm not choosing to do this. My unconscious is making me do this. And that's why I can't change, because my unconscious is the thing that's creating this behavior. And I have to consciously go in there and change that unconscious behavior within me.
But how was it created in the first place?
Based on needs.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Why does a baby cry?
Because it's hungry or it needs its diaper changed. It's a guessing game. I don't know.
Because it's unhappy.
It's unhappy.
Because it's unsatisfied. Because its needs aren't being met. And the moment the needs are met, what happens to the crying?
It stops.
So
you're already making that rumination of the unconsciousness, the patterns, the stuck in the...
And so now, as a almost 41-year-old man... Almost. I have needs that need to be met. And I cry when I don't get those needs met. Crying doesn't look the same now, but bitching and moaning and whining and complaining and being dissatisfied with my experience, that's the same damn thing.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit more mature.
It's an adult tantrum rather than a kid tantrum.
And I can change my adult tantrums. I can change my physiological reactions, right? Like the feeling that I'm having about my experience, I can change that.
Yeah.
By examining it and understanding it. And understanding that I get to choose what needs I really want to meet. We're not going to let the unconscious decide that I just want food and shelter and sex. I want more than that. And so we got to move up this ladder of human needs, right? And it goes into the next need, which is the need for safety, to keep myself safe. And then once I meet the need for safety, then I can go up into the need for love, and I can find love. And then once I get the need for love met, then I can go into esteem and I can feel good about myself. And then after that, I can do this thing called self-actualization, where I kind of make, I can now create what they call congruence, which is what you talked about before. I feel unaligned. And when I get this unalignment thing, I can feel that. I can feel when I'm unaligned. It just doesn't feel right. And I can now create alignment or congruence in the body and the mind and the soul, and the chemistry will fall in suit, and I will feel peace, love, and all the fun things of life. But I can't feel those things until I get my basic needs met. That's Maslow, right? So there's all these different theories. There's all these guys coming out, right? Dozens of these different, very, very important thinkers in psychology.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
With how you just talked about when I feel off and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got to align my spirit with, whatever's going on. Does the spirit and the chemicals, are they cousins? Like, are they connected? Because when I feel off, that's chemicals, correct?
But are the chemicals reacting to an external stimulus, something outside of
Okay.
me, or are they reacting to an internal stimulus, something inside of me?
Okay.
Right? And this
Yes.
is the debate, because we don't, and this is why psychology is so interesting. We don't know.
Yeah.
It's not a
That's
hard
interesting.
science.
Yeah.
And this is what people get all ticked off about, right? They're like, well, you can't measure it. It doesn't exist. Maybe.
Yeah.
We're going to sure as hell try.
Why not, right?
We're going to try to measure it. We're
Yeah.
going to try to notice patterns and get as many repeat results as we can. But the truth of the matter is, we're not going to know for certain. We're going to keep guessing, and we're going to make some very educated guesses about what we think. But likely 20 years down the road, 100 years down the road, we're going to think very differently than we do now, because we're going to understand new
for
things.
sure. Well, and I think also with therapy, there's been a huge movement, right? Because there used to be this big stigma around it. But we have
Still
seen,
is.
well, it still is for sure, but we have seen that therapy has made a difference in people's life.
Definitely.
So why do you think there's still a stigma around therapy?
A couple of reasons. We are slow to change. Humans
Yeah.
don't like change
Yeah.
by nature, because going back to the human needs model, even Freudian stuff, whatever, the idea of change creates fear
Yeah.
and affects my chemistry. It creates a response in the body, and that response in my body is something that is uncomfortable and painful.
How did that become negative?
What do you mean?
How did our response, where it like, I'm comfortable here, but then things are shaken up, and then we're like, oh, the fear scares us. How did that become scary for us?
I don't
Why
think it
can't we
ever-
embrace that?
I don't think it ever became scary. I think it's always scary. And I think to
Okay.
a child, that physiological reaction, that response in the body of fear is designed to get you to go and get a need met.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's your body waking up like, hey, some need is unmet here. Right? And on a very primitive level, if I don't understand that I'm hungry, I'm going to be a dick. Right?
Yeah.
And then the moment I go, oh, food, all of a sudden, what happens to my chemistry?
You're good. You're fine.
Shifts.
Yeah.
And I'm okay now, because I've shifted my chemistry, because my body was telling me, hey, you're hungry. But I didn't recognize that it was hunger. I just thought I was just angry.
Yeah.
And this is conscious awareness. I now learn new things, and I can go, that feeling in my stomach is not nervousness, it's hunger. And I now know how to meet that need of hunger. And when I meet the need, all of a sudden, chemistry settles, I'm good. That happens at every level of the game, all the way up to the top, where you're talking about like your need for what's called esteem or self liking. I don't know, to like yourself, to be okay with who you are, this
Yeah.
congruence thing, right?
Well, I think to love yourself, right?
Sure, that's
Like,
the end game goal, is to love
yeah.
yourself. But really, can I be okay with who I am and not be upset with how things are all the time?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? How that's a
Yeah.
little bit different?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Because I want to love myself. Yes, that's like the ultra goal
Yeah.
for sure, right? I want to trust myself, just completely trust myself. But if I don't trust myself fully, if I don't love myself fully, well, what am I trying to do? I'm just trying to like myself. I'm trying to not be so mean to myself. That's the esteem stuff,
Yeah.
right? That's like we talked about, that shame stuff. But if I don't understand that this pattern of behavior of me not liking myself, or of me being upset with the world around me, this pattern of behavior, if I don't understand how that's negatively affecting my life, if I'm unaware, if it lives in the unconscious, if I'm left unaware of those things and I don't change, I am creating my own suffering. Unknowingly, unwillingly.
Yeah.
But isn't that sad?
Oh, for sure.
So
yeah.
psychotherapy is becoming aware of what it is that I do unconsciously that is making my life awful.
So you don't necessarily need something tragic or horrible to happen to you to go to therapy.
A lot of times the tragic and horrible thing that happens to you wakes you up to the reality that you're not okay with the way things are and you want to change.
So you could come to therapy before that happens.
Definitely. And you'd be more prepared when that thing does happen. Because truth be told, right? Fact of life. You're going to get sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's going to rock you.
Yeah.
It's coming, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get older. That's going to rock you. It's coming, right?
Someone you love will die.
And you're going to lose some people.
Yeah.
You're going to be faced with the reality of life, which is we all get sick, we all get older, we all die.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about that? You could run from it. You could ignore it. You can try and shove down those feelings, repress them, and call it, shove it down. But the tragedy of life, the difficult moments of life are designed to wake us up to the reality that this is a temporary experience. And more importantly, to wake us up to the reality that during this temporary experience, I'm in charge of my experience. Mm-hmm. I get to interact with me and change me if I want to.
Well, and I think that's what's really awesome about therapy today, that it's becoming more of like, you don't have to have something traumatic for you to go to therapy.
Right.
You can go to therapy to learn more about yourself and why you react the way you do, and why you depending on what emotions you're feeling, why you do the things that you do. And it kind of, you get to go within and learn and become more conscious, and then make little tweaks along the way, and then have your life be better. I just hate when people are like, oh, so-and-so is going to therapy. I wonder what happened. I wonder what, something must be wrong with them. Like, why is that our reaction when we hear that someone's going to therapy? Oh, I wonder what happened to them. Because I just feel like therapy is something where, like, we go to a doctor every year to have a health checkup, right? We make sure that everything's good with our physical body health. Why aren't we doing a checkup for our mental health and having this become more of an awareness? I just feel like this should be education for kids in school and in middle school, in elementary school, in high school. Like, this is something that we should be teaching all of our kids, to have this awareness of this unconscious and conscious part of ourselves, because it really can break down a person. We can break ourselves down. I mean, like, that's why suicide exists, doesn't, like, not?
Wait, what? Hold on. Connect the dots for me there.
Ourselves, we can really bring ourselves down.
Yeah.
Conscious, like our inner critics, right? I can beat myself up so bad that I want to end my life. Like, that's really scary. Like, our minds are seriously so powerful, but
best friend and worst enemy lives inside your head. Yeah.
So why, like, I just feel like, why aren't we as a society making therapy okay? Why aren't we making it not a stigma? Why are we shaming people when they go to therapy, or like saying something's wrong with them? Like, why is that a thing?
I think there's a couple of answers here to this question. It's an important question. And let's be very clear what the question is. Why is there still stigma around therapy? Is essentially the question we're asking.
Pretty much, yeah.
Why are we not cool with this idea of going and working on my unconscious behaviors? It's hard. Yeah, that's true. One. It is hard.
Yeah.
And I intentionally, thanks Mother Nature, have this resistance to doing hard things. I like things to be easy and natural and normal. And that's why a lot of times trauma and these gnarly events that we have in life will motivate people to go to therapy. Because now it's like, this is too bad. I got to do something about it.
Well, the worst just happened to me. So,
sure.
Like, yeah.
And now it's justified because things are super fucked up in my life and I got to go do something about it. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's what happens.
Yeah.
But.
Well, do you think there's still like a stigma around it? Like, of like, you're weak?
Definitely. It's weak to what? What is the thing that's weak about therapy? Ask for help?
I feel like people have, like, if I have to ask for help, then in their own minds, they think something's wrong with them.
Right.
Isn't that a sign right there that, like, I should go get therapy? Because if you think, like, if the way you think is, oh, I really should go get therapy, but if I go get therapy, then something's wrong with me. That right there.
You could work on that in therapy.
That's
Something that
what
you
I'm
could talk
saying.
to a
Yeah.
therapist about. But we also have to answer the question, why is there still a stigma? Because bad therapy exists.
That's true.
And
That is so true.
This is a big one, and this is a
Yeah.
hard one. There's a lot of people who go to therapy and they go to multiple therapists and they go, this isn't working for me. And that's because you have to shop around.
You do have to shop around for therapists.
Right?
Yeah.
And
personalities matter.
Definitely.
Who you vibe with matters.
In fact, that is the number one factor of successful therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you vibe with the therapist?
Yeah.
Do you guys match up? Is this therapist somebody who you trust enough to tell your deepest, darkest secrets to? Because that's what it really comes down to. If I want to align my energies, if I want to create this congruence thing, if I want to start meeting my higher needs, I have to say out loud the thing that I say to myself in my head all the time that I'm really scared to say out loud. And if I can say that to another person and have them hear it and feel what it feels like to say the thing, I did this awful thing and I think I'm awful because of it, and then say it to another person, have other person look back at you and go, okay, tell me more. That's freaking terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
I don't want to deal with this shit. I don't want to unearth it. I don't want to talk about the fact that I was abused as a kid.
Why don't we want to talk about it?
Because it's scary and painful and awful and hard, because I don't want to dredge it up. And I think that if I dredge it up, right, I'm going to have to feel all those feelings again. I might as well just leave it alone, right? But chances are you were neglected or abused or left alone or hurt or abandoned in some way as a young kiddo.
Yeah.
And for that reason, you do some shitty stuff.
Yeah.
And that lives deep, deep, deep in the recesses of your brain, way down deep in the subconscious. And it's influencing so much of that 95%. And it's never been talked about. You might not even remember that it's there, but it's influencing everything. It's the most influential thing that ever happened to you. It's the moment where you met reality. Mom and dad are not perfect. They're going to fail me. I can't trust everybody. What do I do with this?
Yeah.
Usually what people do in that moment is they go, well, I can't trust anybody. And they wall up and they close off and they turn to defense mechanisms, we call them. Unhealthy behaviors, anger, right? Avoidance, addiction, numbing, right? People pleasing, codependency. These behaviors I do out of an unconscious desire to ignore my pain. Because if I dredge up all that pain, it might do me in.
That's true.
And so I don't want to dredge it up.
Yeah.
And so I stay at the surface level and just go about it.
And that's why it's super important to find the right therapist, because of that exact reason. Because you are bringing up these dreadful things and you are digging up things that you most likely don't want to. But I feel like the norm, you don't find the right therapist the first time. Like even Mason said he went to 5, 6 other therapists before he found you. Yeah. And Matt's not the therapist for everyone either. Like you've had people come in your office and be like, oh, he's not he's not a fit for me, and that's totally fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. You really do have to do the work to find the person that you vibe with or that you do feel comfortable with. Like, again, we were born with everything you need, like your body can feel those things. If you can sit there and allow to feel it and listen to it, you will find the right therapist. Don't give up though. I feel like some people go and they find it 1, 2, 3 times to a therapist and they're like, whatever, I'm out. This is not for me. And because it's hard to find the right person. But I think if you can just stick through and keep, I think one of the biggest things is ask recommendations from people that you know.
Definitely.
I feel like that's to have someone that has been to somebody. I mean, that's how I found my therapist.
Yeah.
is from a friend who was like, oh, I went to this person and she was amazing. And I ended up going to her and she was amazing. She was a great fit for me. I felt like me and my friend kind of have the same vibe. And so it just like worked out great. But she wasn't my first therapist. That's for sure. I went to a couple shitty therapists before I found mine. And
Were they shitty or just not the right fit?
okay, now that you say it that way, they were not the right fit. Not that they were shitty. They weren't the right fit for me. You're right. They weren't shitty. It just, our belief systems were not aligned.
Sure.
And so when I feel like I was being pushed to follow their belief system, I was like, no, that's not how I see it or believe it. And so it just didn't work.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't say that they were shitty. Our systems just didn't match up.
Right.
And so,
But there are shitty therapists. I mean, there are therapists
sure.
who just like in any, like you go get your freaking car repaired by a muffler guy and he's trying to not necessarily swindle you, but he just doesn't do as good a job as other guys.
Well, and even like doctors. There's doctors who take advantage of people and stuff like that.
Well, and I know there are therapists who listen to this podcast, and I'll speak to my therapist colleagues, like, do your freaking homework, man.
Yeah.
Like, we got to get these therapists every year. Hopefully, therapists every year are getting in the neighborhood of 20 continuing education credits, right? Yeah. Like a part of my job to maintain my license, and a lot of licensed people have to do this, you have to get continuing education. Mm-hmm. And there are so many options out there. And you can fly through it and do online this, that, and the other and learn nothing. Or clinician friends, you can go learn these models. And they're hard to learn.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. EMDR is not easy to learn, right? But it works.
Yeah.
Right? Go read, right? Modern Man in Search of a Soul. If you're a therapist, go read that book. Carl Jung. Brilliant stuff. Yeah. To understand why you're doing what you're doing. Go learn different treatment models. Find your own. Think about it. Write your own stuff. This is not just, your job isn't to just sit there and listen to people all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not.
No.
Yeah. A therapist's job is to be one, and this is this is how I see it.
Yeah.
My job is to be and this is kind of the Carl Rogers is this really important figure in the world of psychotherapy. He came up with the Rogerian model. And basically what he said was that the therapist's job is to be a mirror. Mm. And so he came up with this idea of asking these really great reflective questions, reflecting back to the person what it is that they're hearing, which is fantastic. So that's job number one, be a mirror. Job number two, be an expert. An expert. You are an expert in your field. And you know the history, you understand the model.
That's why you keep educating yourself.
Yes, you're an expert. Because your job that's important, and the reason why you're an expert is because you are an expert teacher. You're a teacher. The model that we have used as human beings since as far back as we can go is we have a teacher-student model. And that model has worked very, very well for a long time. And so when somebody comes into my office, my job is to be, one, a reflector and a kin. We're on the same team here. We're working together. But additionally, my job is to educate this person, expand their awareness, and call them out on things that I'm feeling and noticing and recognizing and teaching them to do the same. Mm-hmm. It's a very big teaching thing. I think that's why I'm a decent therapist, because teaching comes very naturally.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard for some people to go into that role. They just want to reflect and listen back. But one of the things that's really hard for people to understand is that this idea of rumination is a big deal. And rumination is where your mind just goes in circles and thinks and gets stuck in loops on different ideas. And a lot of people, and you start talking to them and you realize, like, there's these things that I can't stop thinking about. There's this stuff that shows up and my mind just goes hamster wheel, right? Rumination. Let's talk about that. What am I doing when I'm talking about that with this other person? Still ruminating on it.
Yeah.
Well, let's examine that. Let's understand that. Let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's feel about it.
Yeah.
What do you feel when this comes up? And then you get into the body and out of the mind. And now you're starting to do real work, right? And that's why these theories of old have kind of been foundational. But nowadays, what we're trying to do more and more and more of is get into the body and understand that the body is this thing that's ready to heal you.
And is the reason why you're getting into the body is because that's where we hold our trauma,
Right.
isn't it?
And what are you afraid of? Why don't you want to go to therapy? Why don't you want to talk about this thing? Why don't you want to think about the thing that happened to you? Because of what the body experiences, the feeling.
The feeling.
Really, it's the chemistry, right? And the body's response to that chemistry. Can you sit in that feeling for periods of time, observe it, allow it, notice it, and change the mind's automatic response to the feeling that the body is having? That's the biggest thing you can do in therapy. Because my automatic response is to what my body is feeling. That's what gets me in trouble.
Yeah.
It's my behaviors in response to what I'm feeling. So if I can get better at feeling and understand that, why don't I want to go to therapy? Because of the feeling.
Yeah. And the feeling is scary.
It's scary. It's fear.
Yeah.
It's terror. It's shame. It's pain. It's awful. It sucks. Hurts.
So.
Because I have to think about who I lost, right? When I sit down with anybody and they want to talk about grief, I'm like, we have to talk about them.
Yeah.
We have to feel about them.
Yeah.
What do you feel for this person that's no longer here? Your memory of this person is locked away in a feeling. The only thing you'll ever get from the relationship that you have from this person who you've lost is this feeling. And you run from it. Yeah. I wonder if you explored it, what might happen. I wonder if you explored it, if you would feel closer to this person. Maybe even closer to yourself. And that's the beauty of what the psychotherapy thing is.
Well, and I think what's really cool about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you do work with someone who's been through like a loss or something, and it's not that you're going to come into the therapist's office and all of a sudden like these feelings are going to go away and everything's going to be fine and life is going to be happy again, but you learn how to feel this feeling, don't avoid it, feel it, do whatever it is that you need to do to feel that feeling. And then you teach them tools to like feel that and then, okay, pick myself back up and get back at life, right? Because it's like,
yes,
we can't cure it and have it go away.
But tools the tools are designed to do a thing.
Okay.
Because the reason why I don't like the feeling is because of the relationship I have with the feeling.
Okay. So you help change the relationship with the feeling.
Because the relationship I have with the feeling is some sort of story or belief or the meaning that I assign to the feeling, right? This feeling is bad. That's my relationship to the feeling.
Yeah.
It's the meaning that the feeling has.
Yeah.
So if I say, I don't want to think about this person that I've lost, we'll do grief, right? This person, they're gone. I don't want to think about it because I feel what?
I mean, I would say regret is some people feel, or
I feel
like,
regret.
oh, I should have done this, or I should have been,
I feel regret.
Yeah.
And so now the relationship I have with this feeling is all around this regret. And maybe I regret that I didn't do more.
Yeah, or wishing you could have changed it or something. Yeah. Oh, that would be so hard to like live.
What does that do to the feeling when you think about that way? Does it make the feeling more intense or less intense?
I feel like more intense,
Way
like in a
more
negative
intense.
way too.
So notice that the feeling is happening in relation to your relationship with the feeling. You are creating the intensity of the feeling that you're feeling because you relate to it in this way.
Yeah.
I shouldn't feel it. It's wrong. It's bad. I did something wrong. My relationship is the problem. So I have to work on my relationship with the feelings. And it has nothing to do with the fact that the person's gone.
Gone. Yeah. It's
my relationship to the feeling that I feel when I think about the person who's gone.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense because it makes me think of my sister, Becky Jo.
Sure.
Where like when my parents do bring her up, because I just grew up knowing that I had a sister that passed away in a train accident. And I saw moments of pain for my parents, but I also saw that was what they had of her, that feeling that's the memory they have of her, and they didn't want that to go away. And so we did bring her up all the time. And sometimes we would just, like me and my mom would just cry together. And that's just what that feeling was. But it wasn't, I remember it not being a bad thing. I just remember it being, that's what it was. And we would just cry. And then we would pick ourselves up and, continue on with our day and stuff like that. So.
What do you think that did for you? For your relationship to the feeling?
I think it helped me realize that it's okay to feel sad and to, kind of like just feel it. I mean, my mom created such a safe space, and I mean, it was more so with just her. And so I think I felt like what I got from being raised by my mother who lost a child was created safety around her, that I could cry with her, and it's okay.
And that crying with her, what did it create for you?
That it was okay.
But deeper, the crying, the emotion that you felt with your mother, what did that create for you with your mother?
A bond. Yeah.
So what we learn is that I have this relationship with this feeling. Mm-hmm. And the relationship to the feeling is I don't like it. It's too uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But when I become friends with this feeling, I assign new meaning to the feeling. Instead of I don't like it, I say, well, maybe this feeling can do something for me besides just remind me of the loss. Maybe this feeling can also help me connect to other people who feel the same feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then guess what I don't feel? Loneliness.
The loneliness.
Because loneliness is the most painful feeling that a human being can experience.
Yeah.
And so what we begin to understand about emotions, about my relationship to the feelings, is when I become friends with my feelings, when I begin to understand them, assign new meaning to them, these emotions, these feelings that I have, I understand that their purpose and their drive has been and always will be to connect me to other people. And the more in tune and in touch and the better relationship I have with my feelings, the more connected I feel to other human beings.
Which is so beautiful, because that's like the we over the me.
It is. And that's the whole point.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this whole damn thing.
Yeah.
The whole point of this whole life is to connect and to be with each other.
Let's share the hard stuff with each other.
And we are terrified because I don't want to feel that feeling again. Because what if it's too much? I'll tell you right now, the most basic understanding you can have about feelings, most important thing you can learn about feelings, is the idea of impermanence. They always change. Nothing stays the same. Coming, going, ebbing, flowing, no emotional experience is ever constant.
It always passes.
Right?
Yeah.
Even the flux of the feeling is changing second to second, moment to moment. And the better you are, the more connected you are, the better the relationship is between you and those feelings, the more understanding you'll have of this ebb and flow. And then it's almost weirdly, and this is the spiritual component to it, right? It's almost weirdly like these emotions kind of speak to you.
Yeah.
They teach you.
They teach you.
And if you're willing to listen to them, they'll tell you stuff about you. They'll tell you stuff about your life and maybe even where you want to go and what you want to do and what's important to you. And they'll motivate you to do cool stuff, hard stuff.
Yeah.
And you will connect better and you'll feel better and you'll love more and you'll grow and all these beautiful things. But when we're afraid of them, when we've stigmatized feeling, we want to turn emotions off. That's dangerous territory. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary.
And is that where like your patterns stay the same? You were
stuck in these
you
cycles.
get stuck in the cycles. And is this why addiction is so
Yes.
big in this? Because you can control the feeling by just drinking it away. And then you're like, oh, I'm drunk. I feel better. I don't feel that feeling anymore.
Yep.
Like what is,
Nailed
yeah.
it.
That's crazy.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's cool though.
It is cool. And I understand like why it's scary.
Definitely.
100%. And I feel like, isn't that where we grow when it is scary and it is tough?
Definitely.
But us as humans, is it the human design of we just want to stay in comfort?
Definitely. Because what is comfort? To a baby.
It's, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you're comfortable, you know what's coming, and so you're what is the word I'm looking for?
Predictable?
Yes,
Certainty?
predictable.
It's predictable?
It's predictable. Like if I know like what my day is going to look like and the things that I'm going to do, then for me before I did all my therapy is I would just feel this sense of safeness and just be like, okay, I got this. If I do
Say that again. What would you feel?
a sense of safeness.
So comfort is somehow related to safety.
100%.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think for me it was.
Everybody.
Yeah.
If I'm comfortable and I equate that to safety,
Then
now,
why would
every time I'm not comfortable, what is it?
Yeah. It's not safe.
So it's
And
dangerous.
It's dangerous.
So now being uncomfortable is dangerous.
Yeah.
That's my relationship to the feeling. That's the story I tell myself about the feeling. That being uncomfortable, that discomfort, whatever the discomfort feeling is dangerous. That's the relationship. And I can change that relationship by examining it and understanding it and asking questions about it. But I have to feel the feeling to change the relationship to the feeling.
That's why I like cold plunges.
Yeah, buddy. Oh, you always bring this up. I think you bring up the cold more than I do.
Because it changed my life. I'm serious. I will preach it till the day I die. But because it is uncomfortable.
It sucks.
But it's also still safe. Like you're not going to die. So I was like, I can let this teach me.
But isn't that something that is broadly applicable across so many different areas of life?
For sure.
Because my idea is that if I get uncomfortable, I'm going to put myself in danger.
Yes.
But maybe not.
No. And that's what I've learned through the cold plunge is
maybe not is a huge question.
It's a huge question. Well, and even doing this podcast, like I was terrified to get on here and be on camera and like speak to people and stuff like that. And I didn't want to do it in the beginning, especially when the light comes on. You're like, it's so scary. But
it's
vulnerable. And I feel like...
And the feeling is what? What do you feel when you do it?
I feel hot. My body gets really hot and sweaty. And my stomach gets very nauseous. And I mean, it's not comfortable. But once I'm done, I feel growth. I feel like I did something hard. I feel accomplished.
And what does that feel like in your body? The growth, the accomplishment. What does that feel like? How is that different than the feeling before?
It gives me like a high. It makes me feel a sense of joy and peace. And it makes me feel accomplished.
So it's almost like on the other side of these uncomfortable emotions that create pits in our stomach and knots in our throat and tightness in our chest, if we sit through those emotions rather than try and control them, and we let them do their thing and observe them, and we get to the other side of them, there's another feeling waiting for us, which is often joy.
Joy, yeah.
Peace. Maybe even some understanding, right?
Yeah. For sure. And I think another thing that I gain from it is like my mental shift of how I talk to myself goes, oh, I can do this.
Yes. The story
changes.
The relationship to the feeling changes.
Yes.
Because now the relationship to the feeling is what? What's my story that I tell myself about the feeling? After I experience the feeling and it changes.
Now I'm just like, oh, wait, that was teaching me. Yeah.
So now my emotions become teachers. And if an emotion is a teacher, do I want to avoid that emotion?
No.
Because I want to learn from it. That's the relationship to the feeling. This is what you learn in psychotherapy.
So this is what you do in therapy. Okay, so...
Hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. Like, you want to
find... And people are like, can I do this on my own? Sure. slower, more painful, and here's the hard part, folks. You need an expert teacher to teach you things expertly. Did I say that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I just
An expert teacher to teach you things expertly.
Yeah.
Because who do I want to go to learn how to freaking lift weights?
Yeah.
Do I want to go to the freaking scrawny dude in the corner? Right?
Well, I don't think it matters what they look like. But do you want to go to...
There's some evidence supporting the efficacy
That's
of this
true.
person's
I know.
methods.
Yes.
Right? And so when you go to a clinician, therapist person, their expertise hopefully shines through, and you can kind of look to this person and go like, I kind of like their vibe. I dig that.
Yeah.
I kind of want it. I want more of that vibe.
Yeah.
They really bring this energy. I want some of that. That's what you should be looking for. And that's what's cool about the therapy thing. What I teach people because I meet with a lot of people because I can't see everybody clearly, and I'm referring out constantly. So I'll do like, if people want to try and figure out how to do therapy and try and find somebody to do therapy, what I've learned to do is I'll do an assessment with the person, and then I can kind of refer them out to different friends of mine or whatever. But these assessments, we can really drill down. I can give them some like a little bit of homework and then teach them how to find a good therapist.
Yeah.
And the thing that we do inevitably every time is we say, hey, you have to go off of how it feels.
That's just funny.
You have to feel.
Yeah.
You got to feel the feels, and you got to feel the vibe. Do you resonate with this person?
Yeah. Well,
the feeling is the key.
The feeling is the key. And I disagree with you. I don't think you can do it alone. And I don't necessarily think you have to go get a therapist, but like your friends matter, your family matter, the people you put yourself around matter.
Well, and what I said was, just so I'm clear, you can try to do this alone.
Yeah.
But the process
But we can't even do life alone, though.
Right. How effective is that? You don't have to, the point is, you don't have to do anything. Yeah. You don't have to do shit.
No, you don't. But
how effective is the way you're doing things?
Well, just
getting you what you want.
Well, just notice through life, like, you surround yourself by certain people because it's more fun. It's more joy. It's more, you know,
vibe with them.
You vibe with them. So, like, if you're going to vibe with them that way, why wouldn't you vibe with them through the hard times too and show those emotions and ask for help?
Sure.
I don't know. But I
agree. Why? And maybe one of the flips that I like to do when asking questions is people ask, well, why don't do this? How about why do this?
So I like that.
Now, why connect with other people? Mm-hmm. Why open up about your feelings? Mm-hmm. Why go explore these things in your life? Mm-hmm. What would your life look like if you did?
Why go to therapy?
Yeah.
Ask yourself that instead now. Yeah. I like that.
So I hope this was helpful for people. We've been asked for a while to do an episode like this. So you're welcome.
Therapy 101.
Hopefully it answers some questions. We definitely did not answer
we didn't do
any of the questions that we had written down, but I think it was
No, we did. I feel like we answered some of them, but it was really good. Yeah. But if you guys, if you're struggling looking for a therapist, hit up Matt and he can help you with that. You can get his assessment and he can kind of get a feel of like what your energy and vibes are like and match you up with one of his colleagues that he thinks you would, work well with and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I do take new clients periodically.
Yeah.
Right now I'm very full.
Yeah. But I feel like you do a pretty good job at
well, and this is why, I try to rotate through, but this is also why I love group therapy.
Yes. Yeah. Do you have something coming up here in Utah where besides our event, we do have our event coming up July 27th or 26th? 27th. And that is going to be with Mason Sawyer from the 1090 podcast. Him and Matt are going to be speaking. We're going to be doing kind of like a workshop event in Lehigh. So be sure to check that out. It's on Eventbrite. We would love to see all of you come. I don't think you guys want to miss this. I think it's actually going to be amazing. I think it's going to be life-changing for some people. And I think it's going to help also network other people who have been through shit and to be able to connect with each other. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest thing is getting everyone in a room together and helping each other connect. And because we can't do this alone. And it is about the we and not just the me.
Yeah.
So,
well, and what's really cool, I've heard from some people, I've been talking to people throughout the last week. We got people flying in from out of state to come to this event. So it's going to be really cool. People, so not a lot of people have seen me speak before and they're like, what does Matt do? Quick plug. I literally travel the country and speak for hours to people who don't want to hear me all the time.
So it would be nice to speak to somebody who wants to hear you.
But my job is to get people who don't want to hear me to actually enjoy what I'm teaching and to apply it. And I do that quite well. So now people who have never been to like a conference style event like this, I understand that asking you to attend something like this is a little outside of your comfort zone. But I'm telling you right now, these types of things are awesome.
They're powerful.
They're powerful. Well, and you get to help somebody along the way. Like a lot of what we're earning is going to go to a family who needs it, right? Yeah. So this isn't just like, well, they want to do a cash grab. No. We want to help people. Yep. And we're going to donate a lot of this money to a family who needs it. And we're going to use this event to hopefully promote other stuff that's going on for people who are going to be a part of the event. We're going to do like a raffle. We're going to do all sorts of cool stuff. So we'd love to have you there. And there's a whole episode on it. Mason just released his today. So you can check out the 1090 podcast.
Ours will be out by the time this releases. So
so be sure to check it out. Anyways,
thanks,
look forward
guys.
to seeing you there and hope you like this episode. We'll see you on the flip side. Finding Strength podcast is sponsored by Avantacool. Avantacool. It's a fun word to say.
It is a fun word to say. What is Avantacool, Matt?
Avantacool sells cold plunges. Avantacool sells infrared saunas. Check out Avantacool at avantacool.com. If you use the code STRENGTH24, you will get a discount of 25% off any Avantacool products. How amazing is that?
That's a good discount. It really is.
Do you like our cold plunge?
I love it.
It's nice, huh?
It is really nice.
It's great.
Stays clean.
It's clean.
Perfect. Whatever temperature I want it to be at, I can set that, and it's great.
Yep. We love it.
Go check them out.
Every penny. Check them out. Avantacool.com.